It's time now for another look at the day's business news. And France is, of course, in the midst of a major strike over proposed pension reforms. Cole Stangler is here to tell us more about how the country's retirement system stacks up to the rest of Europe. Cole.
That's right, Thomas. No legislation, of course, has been announced yet, but the government has floated a series of controversial reforms. Now, one of those is a proposal to effectively change the retirement age, raising to 64, the earliest age at which most workers can retire and collect full pension benefits. As it stands, that age is currently set at 62. It's one of the lowest levels in the European Union, and that's helped to fuel support for the reforms. See right here, in Spain, that age is 65 years old. In Germany, it's 67 years old. In Sweden, on a scale from 61 to 67 with no set retirement age. Now, one of the figures that unions here who oppose the reforms have been pointing to is the poverty rate among the elderly. So you can see here, France has a rate of just 7%. 7% of pensioners considered at risk of poverty. It's the lowest level actually in the European Union, lower than Germany at around 19%, Spain at 13%, also Sweden, though, at 16%, Sweden, which we've seen cited as an example for reforms in France. Now, one of the most controversial aspects of those pension reforms is the impact it's going to have on public sector workers. Until now, they've enjoyed so-called special retirement systems to compensate for difficult working conditions. It's most true of railway workers who now stand to lose these benefits if the government gets its way. Emerald Maxwell explains.
It became state policy in 1945, but the special pension status granted to railway workers began a lot earlier, in the 19th century. In order to attract workers, the private companies running the railways gave them the right to retire at 52.
In order to retain their staff, who'd been expensively trained by the state, companies started little by little to grant them privileges, which was extraordinary because at the time only the military and some civil servants benefited from these sorts of privileges.
A century later, these privileges are still enshrined. The average retirement age at the national state-owned SNCF is just under 57 years. It's even younger at Paris's public transport operator, while the national retirement age is around 63. Yet the French government argues the job is less grueling than it used to be.
Well, first, we don't drive steam trains nowadays, so we don't have to shovel coal into a firebox. Work conditions have evolved, and now if you take an objective measure like the annual duration of work, you see that SNCF staff don't work as long as public sector staff, who in turn don't work as long as private sector workers, and for SNCF drivers, it's even less.
But unions say that although working conditions have improved in some ways, in other respects, they're worse.
When I started working here, they explained the compensation system. They said you'll work the weekend, you'll miss your children's birthdays, you'll work Christmas, New Year, you'll switch between day and night shift patterns, but you'll retire early.
It's a system that the government argues is now unsustainable. The special pension costs the state €8 billion every year. And as life expectancy grows, so does the number of former railway staff. There are now nearly twice as many pensioners as workers currently paying into the pot.
Let's take a look now at Thursday's trading action. Shares on the major Asian indices are seeing gains. The Nikkei with gains of around 0.7%. Hang Seng, as you can see here, up about 0.5%. Shanghai Composite showing gains about 0.75%. Now, investors clearly with fresh hopes that a U.S.-China trade deal may be in sight. It's after Bloomberg reported a so-called Phase 1 agreement could be coming soon, before U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports are set to rise again on December 15th. Now, a centerpiece of the U.S.-China trade tensions is Huawei, the Chinese tech giant and world leader of next-generation 5G technology. Washington says the firm is a security risk, and last month the country's Federal Communications Commission voted to bar U.S. firms from using federal subsidies to buy equipment from Huawei. On Wednesday night, actually in California, the company took a move to fight back. It's suing the FCC. Take a listen.
When passing this decision, the FCC did not offer Huawei to process or verify the facts, but they very loudly and very publicly labeled our company as a national security threat. The FCC's order violates the Constitution, and we have no choice but to seek legal remedy.
And finally, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has unveiled a set of major stimulus measures. The $120 billion spending package is designed to help the economy overcome recent natural disasters. It'll help repair typhoon damage, but also upgrade infrastructure and invest in new technologies. It's also set to counter the risk of a potential slowdown after the country hosts the Olympics next summer. Now, Thomas, many seeing a return here to what's been dubbed Abenomics, of course, the Prime Minister's early use of fiscal stimulus to try to boost the economy.
OK, Cole Stangler with the latest business news. Thank you very much.